Welcome to the Sun Today for the 23rd of March 2022. I'm having problems with my Twitter account, so I'm going to be posting subsequent The Sun Today versions on YouTube rather than Twitter, at least for the foreseeable future. Here's the image I would normally have posted on Twitter if my account had been working properly, and I'll just go through it quickly as a summary. The sunspot number is stable at just less than 50. GEOSPACE is relatively quiet. The KP index varying between 1 and 3, which is the solar wind speed has gone up to 370 kilometers per second, so that might foretell some future disturbed or even geomagnetic activity in the next couple of days. Number 3, the GOES X-ray plot is on the rise, as you can see here, and the background level is at a C1 level. As a result, we've had a lot of small C flares and one C7 and one C5 flares from different regions. In the fourth frame, we have the sunspot picture superimposed upon the corona. You can see there are 8 sunspot regions, 2 of which are decaying quite rapidly in the western part of the sun. Active region 2973 is not looking so good and probably will disappear in the next day or two. We have a nice growing region in the northeast which produced the C7 flare. We have a small region in the southeast which produced the C5 flare. There looks as though there's a very large spot coming over the east limb, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. We also seem to have some major activity behind the southeast limb. The title of this video is 100 days, and that's because we've been over 100 days without any spotless days being on the sun. And we've had 2 consecutive days with flares greater than C1. Let's look at the sunspot number in a little bit more detail. This is the data from the SIDC. It's been stable at about 50 or a little bit below for the last few days. The average for the month so far is a relatively high number, 66. And the likely trend with these new regions coming over the east limb is that is going to go up. The projected average for the month of March so far is 62. As I mentioned before, GEOSPACE is quiet with the KP index varying between 1 and 3. However, there's a large coronal hole, that's that dark area seen here in the 211 angstrom AIA band, stretching from about halfway to the western limb from sun center. As that gets further and deeper into the western hemisphere, that's liable to become geoaffective and could cause either magnetic disturbances or even a geomagnetic storm if the solar winds from that gets intense. The solar wind has increased to about 370 kilometers per second, which may be a harbinger of this coronal hole starting to affect the Earth. It is clear, looking at the GOES X-ray flux, that things are beginning to get exciting. We've had 2 fairly large C flares, the C7 and the C5 late yesterday, and there's been a whole series of small C flares this morning, and the overall X-ray background has been building up, is now approximately at the C1 level. The interesting thing is that these C flares came from different regions, so we've got several possibilities for activity in the coming days. Let's take a look at sunspots, and the biggest thing that's going on at the moment is this huge sunspot coming over the northeast limb. It's probably several times the size of the Earth. Now those sunspots out ahead of it are a different region, and that's the one that actually produced the C7 flare earlier. There's another region down south, not quite so impressive, but that also produced a flare yesterday, the C5 flare. And it looks as though there's more things coming over the east limb at this time. So this is liable to get quite active in the next few days. Another story here on prominences. There's a lot of prominences on the sun at the moment, particularly near the polar crown filament area. And the one in the southwest here looks to be the most active and the one that seems most likely to erupt in the near future. You can see there's a lot of structure going on here, and it even has a nice coronal cavity above it that's very well defined. That's that slightly darker area in the corona. So we should keep an eye on that over the next couple of days and see if it indeed does erupt. A lot of people make a lot of fuss about the number of spotless days, particularly trying to link it to low levels of activity and then a grand solar minimum. That seems to be declining. They've hardly mentioned spotless days for a very long time. And that's because there haven't been any for the last 100 days, in fact 101 days now. This is the SID sunspot number per day, and you can see the last time that we had a spotless day was in early December of 2021. So it's been at least 3 months since we've had a spotless day, and the sunspot number seems to be growing away from that. In fact, it's quite possible that we will have no more spotless days until we get back into the decay phase of solar cycle 25. The sun remains surprisingly active for this early stage of the solar cycle. Sunspot regions are getting larger and more long-lived. Flares are becoming more common and bigger. The time between spotless days is getting longer and has now exceeded 100 days, that's over 3 months, and may well not see another spotless day for years to come. So thank you for watching. I hope to get back on Twitter if we can sort out the problem with my account, but in the meantime I'll post these reports on YouTube. If you enjoyed this, please pass it on, and until next time, stay safe and goodbye.